Now, there's something that I sort of noticed this week, something that came through to us that really kind of spoke to me. I thought we should definitely talk about it. It's tradespeople facing gruelling work hours, financial strain, the isolation of lone working, mental health struggles, and are mounting to crisis levels as a result. 7,000 construction workers have been lost to suicide in a decade, enough to build an entire city. The construction industry grappling with an epidemic that threatens lives and livelihoods. We talk about mental health in this programme every now and again. As you know, I've been open about it. I have some mental health struggles myself. I take pills every single day for it. But when you think about tradespeople, it's not something you immediately think. It's quite a tough profession, isn't it? You've got to be physically strong. You've got to be good at your job. You've got to turn up. You've got to do the job you're meant to do, and then, you know, charge for it and make sure that you do it well. But over 70% of tradespeople report mental ill health. Many are turning to alcohol and drugs to cope. It's a crisis the UK can no longer afford to ignore. Some of the statistics are just astonishing. The construction industry, over 200, if you think about what those people would have created, it's an economic cost as well. I care mostly, of course, about the mental health element, but I care as well about the fact that, you know, we need to build more homes. We need, in this country, for example, 150,000 homes would have been created by those people. 80 schools, 3 hospitals that will never be built. Construction workers 4 times more likely to die by suicide than the national average, making it one of the deadliest professions for mental health in the UK. When have you ever heard that before? I've never heard that before. 96% of tradespeople work alone as well. I actually had a guy, an electrician in my flat recently. He works alone, really nice guy, had a bit of a chat with him. But yeah, it must be a lonely job for many people. 65% experience crushing financial stress. The industry forcing workers into a dangerous mental health territory. Inadequate support to break the cycle. Mental health absences cost the construction sector $2.74 billion. So isn't this just about an ethical approach, but also about the financial approach, the long-term viability of construction? Let's get into those questions. Joe Baker is with us, and we'll talk to him in just a second. But Lee Wilcox is the person I want to speak to first. He's the Chief Executive of On The Tools, which is the UK's largest online construction-based community. He employs 43 people. And Lee, I wonder how much mental health comes into what you're thinking about, the people that you're sending out on jobs and so on. What is it about mental health that is an aspect of the work that you have, and how much do you think about it realistically as someone running their own business? I mean, there are lots of other pressures on you.
Yeah, so thanks for having us on, Peter. It's an important subject, and it's why we launched this campaign. So, look, I think the risks are incredibly high. It's something we're battling with every day when we're working with tradespeople. Our business is a media business across the construction industry, and we have built a community across social media of millions of tradespeople, and we now sort of see it as our responsibility to try and raise awareness and support these people, because as you've just spoke to there, no one outside of construction, no one knows this is happening.
It was a new one on me, I must say, Lee. It was a really new one on me.
And it's for that reason that we went out on Thursday and we put 7,000 hard hats across 10 cities to represent the people that we've lost. And, you know, you mentioned it earlier that it is an economic problem. We're in a period of time where we do need more homes, we do need more infrastructure, but I just don't think the correlation is there on who actually does this stuff, who builds the homes, who builds the schools that our kids are educated in the hospitals and the GP practices that were looked after. And, you know, when something goes wrong in your house and you need a new boiler or you need a new fuse box, who are the people that come and do this, you know, and they're not looked after. They don't have the same perks and privileges that the white collar world does, and something needs to change, you know, something that's got to change. How can it be a bad idea that we try and reduce a suicide rate in an industry that has the highest one? And the impact of it for the country, when construction starts to fall and stop and not have enough people join and more people leave, it will be a huge knock-on effect. And I don't think the government or the governing bodies are aware of it. I just don't think it's the correlations there.
What can the workers themselves do to look after their mental health as well? Because certainly I know the pressures that are there, especially in this economy. There are a lot of people, sole traders as well. They want to pack in as many jobs as they can. They've got to drive to different places. They see the cost of petrol going up. They see, national insurance contributions have to go up, taxes in other ways going up. Lots of pressures on them, and they're thinking, I've got to do as many jobs as I can. I've got to make as much money as I can, because I don't know whether the jobs are still going to come. And there's a lot of pressure in it itself. I see it as someone who's worked as a freelance journalist previously. You sort of say yes to everything and then sometimes end up burning yourself out.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely bang on there, Peter. They don't know where the next job's coming from, and I think there needs to be a focus on trying to look after themselves better, obviously. You spoke about the link earlier to alcohol and drugs, etc. I think it's a completely different industry, and it's way more fragmented than people understand. And the next job is often won on the job you're on. These guys can't take sick day. If they take sick day, they lose money.
And they'll feel guilty about taking a sick day as well, because they'll say, well, there's a few £100 or whatever it is down the drain. How sick am I actually? And listen, I've seen this with people who come to work when they're, self-employed people. There's my barber recently, self-employed, he runs his own business. He cut my hair the other day. He had a really bad cold. I could see that. And I just said to him, you clearly should be in bed. You've got a bad cold. And he just said, well, if I don't turn up, I don't get paid.
Exactly that. The pressures that these people are under around, the industry contributes the highest volume of SMEs of any industry, right? So then that pressure of running your own business, not knowing where the next job comes from, not being able to take sick leave, or even go and get yourself checked. So say they are feeling ill mentally, or they have actually got an injury. Half the time these people just go on and go on and go on, because they know that the time pressures involved in construction is rife. And you're absolutely right. There's a real knock-on effect of trying to cram as much in. But from our point of view, what we believe is missing, and it's why we've started this campaign across, when we're running this for the next 3 years, is that they don't have the access to the professional support that they need when they need it. And we believe that we can raise the £2.5 million to try and save the next 7,000 people. And we've partnered with the two charities, Band Builders and Construction Sport, to do that. They're both construction-based charities. So for me, it's about the industry trying to start having those conversations specifically around suicide. Are you having thoughts of suicide?
Yeah.
Are you well? How are you feeling? And then ask that question again, and then ask it again. And that's all of our responsibility, whether you're a boss or whether you're an employee or it's a peer. It works all the way up and down. Everyone's under a lot of pressure, and I think that's what I think can happen and should happen.
Thanks very much, Lee. Just stay where we are. I'll come back to you for a final word, but I wanted to speak to Joe Baker now, who works for a company called Second City Screed. Joe, what do you make of all this? I know you're someone who has experienced some of this. Just tell me your own story.
So I have experienced this. I've suffered severely with my own mental illness. I was deep into addiction and attempted suicide. So I'm sort of at the forefront of all of it, I guess. So I understand from both points of view that, it's a difficult situation for construction workers. I wasn't in construction when I was in my dark place, but I believe that construction saved me.
What do you do now? What's your job?
So I run a company called Second City Screed, and I install underfloor heating and liquid screed for a living.
And do you just work yourself, or do you work with other people as well?
No, so it's me, and then I've got two young lads that work for me of like 20 and 27. And again, it's all about trying to educate them in the fact that it's okay for them to come to talk to me if they need to come to talk to me about their mental health. Have
they done that?
Yeah, I think I'm a very open-minded person, and I think that they feel comfortable to approach me. I think the big factor for them is that they understand that I've been in that situation myself. So for them to approach me, and I make a point of talking to these guys and saying to them, look, if ever you're in a time of trouble, I want you to be able to approach me. And I think that's the one thing that we don't get in this industry from experience in other industries is we don't get that education You know, this is the big problem. It's brilliant that we're raising awareness about this. It's really, really, you know, it's key in what we're doing, and obviously what Lee's doing. But I think we need to educate, and we really need to get people trained in this. That's the thing. Awareness is brilliant, but if you know, if people aren't trained in it, that's where the problem lies, I think.
And let's face it, and I wonder if you've experienced this as well, Joe. I mean, construction is a very macho industry. It's about, you know, it's mostly men, let's face it, who are doing, you know, manual jobs, who are doing things that are really helpful, getting people, sorting out their homes or fixing things or putting in underfloor heating like you, keeping people warm, making sure that people have a nice place to live. But a lot of the time, I would imagine, when you're dealing with clients, it's quite a short interaction. They're maybe going out of the house to let you get in there, or you talk just about the work and then go. I just wonder, if you are someone who's having maybe tradespeople into your home or business, is that something that you think clients should perhaps have an awareness of as well, and maybe just help in some way or try to help in some way?
Yeah, I think, again, I'm really open about how I was in the past. And only the other day, I think it was Thursday last week, I had a conversation with a customer about, you know, she was asking me how I got into construction, how long I've been doing it. And I had an open conversation with her about my journey of recovery. And I think people are more understanding now. I think the big shock to people, and this is from when we were doing what we were doing the other day with On the Tools, is that people's awareness, and you've just proved this yourself, Peter, that people don't understand the severity of the situation. And I think that's when people start hitting you with statistics of 14 construction workers a week are dying, you know, from suicide. That's a scary figure, and that's what I think the awareness is about, really.
You're absolutely right, and I've been made aware of it, and I'm trying, you know, and you are helping me, as is Lee, make our viewers and listeners aware of it. I just wonder whether you think construction itself and the kind of life that it is part of this as well. I mean, Lee and I were chatting a second ago. I'm sure you heard that conversation about you're often a sole trader. You know, you're often rushing from one job to the next. There's the where does the work come from kind of thing. I mean, there's a lot of stress there that perhaps isn't there in other jobs as well, which may lead to or contribute in some way to mental health problems.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, you know, it's predominantly, as Lee mentioned, you know, it's the biggest SME industry, and I think from someone who's self-employed, the stresses of my job, I mean, my job's kind of in and out in a day to 2 days. So my diary is very small and condensed in regards to potentially like a builder where they've got maybe 12 months worth of work. I'm having to find jobs for the following week and potentially the week after that. You know, my diary is very short-lived, if that makes any sense. Yeah. And I think the stress that brings along with it is phenomenal. And as an industry, you know, it is a male-dominated industry. There's more and more women coming into the industry now, which I think is fantastic. But we're all of the essence that we're men. You know, my pet hate is when people say man up or suck it up. And I think that's the thing, is people are just considered, you know, we've got to shrug it off and deal with it. Like Lee was saying, you know, taking time out is so hard in this industry.
You talked earlier about the fact that you were having very dark thoughts. You'd attempted suicide. I just wonder how do you keep that in check? How do you keep your mental health in check, especially dealing with the stressful job that you do, talking about not knowing maybe next week or in a fortnight what you're going to be doing for work?
For me, the recovery journey was what was really important to me. You know, quitting alcohol was massive. It's made me realise that I was a different person when I was drinking. I think that's had a massive positive effect on my life. But just surrounding yourself with people that you know, understand and creating a network of people around you that you understand that it's okay to talk to these people. You know, I mean, we've got a very, very big trade community on Instagram from the guys that On the Tools have created, and I think that we're almost a brotherhood, not excluding females.
Yeah,
but,
I know what you mean.
It's nice that we're able to talk to each other. And off the back of the event that we did the other day to create awareness was, you know, the amount of messages we've had off other tradies that even tradies themselves didn't understand the figures and statistics that were behind this is, you know, that's what it's about. But I think for me, it's mainly just about the education. I think we really, really need to.
And that's a really interesting point, Joe, and thank you for speaking to me. That's Joe Baker there from Second City Screed. That's his trade company, his underfloor heating one. Just a final word from Lee Wilcox, who's the Chief Executive of On The Tools. Lee, there is that education point. It's about clients, it's about the public, it's about the government, but as you say, it's also about the construction sector as well.
It is, and you know, look, I love. By the way, I absolutely love this industry. I think the people in it are the most fantastic people. I think they're most talented, but they aren't looked after. And I think if you look at it from a top-down point of view, I believe that the contractors and the government have got a massive responsibility. The industry is incredible at health and safety, and you walk on site, and the first thing you have to do is risk assessment, health and safety procedures, etc. If you know, so someone doesn't get physically injured. Why can't that be put in place?
They care about the physical health because they have to, because of all the legislation. But actually, the mental health is the thing they need to focus on next, perhaps.
Yeah, I completely. Yeah, that's how I see it. Is that there should be an ill mental health induction and awareness and how the impacts. It's a dangerous industry to work in. You are probably going to see things that are more difficult to deal with. You said it earlier on. I think there's lone working, there's pay, there's where you get your job next. There's working away from your family for long periods of time. These guys they've got stacked challenges, and you know, I think they need better representation at government. You know, there's no minister for construction. There's not even a union that sits over construction, and these are the things that I think need to change. And we see it as our job, and we're going to continue to fight that fight. But if people can go to the lostcity.org, they can donate there to raise money for this cause to get people the help when they need it most.
Who would you want as Minister for Construction?
Oh, who would I want for Minister of Construction? Nick Knowles. No, I'm joking. No, I'd need more thought. I'll do it. Someone needs to do it.
You'll do it. You'll do it. Well, what you could do is you say, I'll do it, but it's going to cost you.
Yeah. Well, we want payment up front. That's the one.
That's it. That's the one. Thanks very much indeed. That's Lee Wilcox there, Chief Executive On The Tools. We also heard from Joe Baker there. Second City Screed is his trade company name. Two good men, I think, who are doing an important thing, actually. And if you are working in construction, I'd love to hear from you. Maybe you've had mental health issues. Maybe that's something that is you think it's good that this focus should be on it. Maybe you don't. Maybe you think there's enough focus on it. Let me know your thoughts. 0344 499 1000. Dave has been in touch and says, I think it is an issue, mental health, across many trade jobs, as they're constantly working harder for less, unlike the private sector, or the public sector, I think he means, who want a 4-day a week for no drop in money. There is that fairness aspect as well, certainly as well. Leo in Woking says, could it be that tradespeople, manual labour, blue-collar workers are turning to drugs, alcohol and more prone to suicide? Is also attributable to the way society values these jobs, and that they're perceived as being low-status jobs on a social level, in contrast to what David Goodhart would call the educated cognitive elite. Undoubtedly, plenty of people in that category are vulnerable too, but I can't help but feel that society leads to a perception that certain jobs and careers are more socially prestigious than others. Leo, you're absolutely right. I make this point fairly frequently. I mean, I have a friend who has studied for 9 years on a PhD. He's an academic. He earns about a third of what my brilliant plumber earns. Rob the plumber, he's a great guy. And I mean, Rob the plumber came into my flat recently for 7 minutes and charged me £92. I did not begrudge him that money because he's very talented and very good at what he does. But, you know, who's the real winner and where should the prestige be? Maybe we should have a more American attitude of looking at what people contribute to the economy and perhaps even how much they earn. If you need help, if you need to talk to someone, go to talk.tv/helplines. There's loads of different information there if you've experienced mental health issues. Stay with us here on Talk.